Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. And Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Bad Paramahansa, Parudikacharya Ashtotar, the Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parudikacharya Ashtotar, the Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. I don't need this. Narayanam namaskritya. Narang chaiva narottamam. Devim saraswatim vyasam. Tato jayamudirihet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 19th day of January 2020 in SanDiego, a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order. Chapter 22, Prithu Maharaja's meeting with the four Kumaras. Text number 8. King tasya durlabhatadam ihaloke paratracha yasya vipra prasidanti Shivo Vishnuscha Sanugaha King Tasya Durlabhatadam Ihaloke Paratracha Yasya Vipra Prasidanti Shivo Vishnuscha Sanugaha King Tasya Durlabhatadam Ihaloke Paratracha Yasya Vipra Prasidanti Shivo Vishnuscha Sanugaha King Tasya Durlabhatadam Ihaloke Paratracha Yasya Vipra Prasidanti Shivo Vishnuscha Sanugaha King Tasya Durlabhatadam Ihaloke Paratracha Yasya Vipra Prasidanti Shivo Vishnuscha Sanugaha King Tasya Durlabhatadam Ihaloke Paratracha Yasya Vipra Prasidanti Shivo Vishnuscha Sanugaha. Kim, what? Tasya, his. Durlabhatadam, very rare to achieve. Iha, in this world. Loke, world. Paratra, after death. Cha, or. Yasya, one whose. Vipra, the Brahmins and Vaishnavas. Prasidanti, become pleased. Shiva, all auspicious. Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. Cha, as well as. Saanuga, going along with. Translation. So Prithu Maharaj is continuing to praise the Kumaras. Any person upon whom the Brahmins and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmins and Vaishnavas. Purport. The Brahmins and Vaishnavas are the bearers of Lord Vishnu, the all-auspicious, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 538. Premanjanatsu dita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva didiyeshu vilokayanti yang shama sundadamachintu gunaswarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The devotees, out of their extreme love for Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always carry the Lord within their hearts. The Lord is already in the heart of everyone, but the Vaishnavas and the Brahmins actually perceive and see him always in ecstasy. Therefore, Brahmins and Vaishnavas are carriers of Vishnu. Wherever they go, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, or the devotees of Lord Vishnu are all carried. The four Kumaras are Brahmins, and they visited the place of Maharaj Prithu. Naturally, Lord Vishnu and his devotees were also present. Under the circumstances, the conclusion is that when the Brahmins and Vaishnavas are pleased with a person, Lord Vishnu is also pleased. This is confirmed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his 8 stanzas on the spiritual master. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasada. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is both Brahman and Vaishnav, one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, then one has nothing more to achieve either in this world or after death. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Time out. Sorry. Hopefully this will abate when the weather gets warmer. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, very important point being made here by Prithu. First is that the great Brahmins and Vaishnavas, and it's understood as we've learned from previous verses that a real Brahmin is a Vaishnava and every real Vaishnava is a Brahmin, so they go together here. They carry Lord Vishnu or Krishna with them by their intense remembrance and their intense love and devotion. Wherever they go, they're spreading Krishna consciousness. They're making people conscious of Krishna. Prabhupada says in one purport that you can tell how advanced the devotee is if just by seeing him one remembers Krishna, wherever you go, So that's why Prabhupada wanted us to wear our devotional clothes in public. That's one of the reasons. Even if you're not a great Vaishnava, people will see you and they'll think, oh, he's a Hare Krishna. And that word Hare Krishna will reverberate in their brain and they'll be highly benefited. So they're carrying Vishnu in their hearts. And Prabhupada quotes this wonderful verse from Brahma Samhita, Premanjanacharita Bhakti Vilochanena, that with the eyes of prema, that their vision has been transformed by the purity of their heart, so that they're seeing Krishna everywhere, within and without. And whether they're within the heart, they're not just seeing the super soul, they're seeing Shama Sundar, the more attractive Govinda form of Krishna. So that state can be attained only by this, constant remembrance and intense devotion and love for Krishna. Just like if someone falls in love, then that person reminds you of that other person all the time. I'm just thinking of this, I don't know if it's even done anymore, maybe not, that you used to have, I want to declare it, so you put you carve the heart in the tree, and there's an L.A. loves, so and so. In other words, the person is reminding of that other person because of their feelings for it. Even on the material plane, it happens a lot. So what to speak of those who purely love God? Even the bodies, you've got the tilak, often you write the names on, right? Your whatever you speak, you're trying to glorify Krishna as much as possible. When you study Prabhupada's life, that we saw so in such graphic detail for those 12 years, 65 to 77, whenever he got the chance, whenever there was any audience, he was immediately glorifying Krishna. Those early days, anyone could go up to his room. You can imagine the opulence, and he would talk for hours. And somebody he would finally come time to take rest, and he would be preaching and lying down, and he would still be speaking about Krishna. So that in that way, the great devotees carry Krishna, and they establish Krishna. What is a temple? A temple is established by a devotee through great effort, often, so that after he's gone, that the people can come there and remember Krishna. Everything here is supposed to remind us of Krishna. And we're supposed to be Krishna conscious and think of Krishna. Well, what would Krishna want me to do here? Then cleaning here, doing this, maintaining, collecting funds, whatever it is. Krishna is a proprietor, and in this way we always remember him and we deepen our affection for him. So they perceive and see him always in ecstasy. And you can see how attractive that is. The idea is that we know that the name Krishna means all attractive, and we can experience that there's everything about him is attractive. The 64 qualities, he's very heroic, in those times, places, circumstances, but there's also one where he's very shy and modest, he has all these qualities that could manifest. So when somebody is presenting that person to you, and that person is the Supreme Lord, then you become attracted also. You become attracted to Krishna through that great Vaishnava Brahmins. And so he's expressed how rare it is, right? It's durlabhataram, not just durlabhatara means difficult to attain, this association. America was just like, it was a desert. The Western world, everything out of India, basically. Who knew anything about Vaishnavism? There may be a few German scholars who knew some theory about it, But as far as any mass movement, any attempt to really preach Krishna consciousness as it is outside of India, it was just unheard of. But Srila Prabhupada knew that was what Lord Chaitanya wanted, that was what his spiritual master ordered him to do. And against all odds, he often says how before he took sannyas, which clearly was a prerequisite to travel widely and not be concerned about the family and so forth. He was horrified, he said at first, because devotees were telling him that you have to do. His spiritual master would come in a dream, remember that? But so Prabhupada tried, as hard as he could to preach and still maintain a family, and be committed, But by Krishna's grace, that became untenable. The whole pastime of that, and so he just showed his full surrender. One of the two of the main principles of surrender, rakshishyatiti vishvaso, to be confident that Krishna will protect and Krishna will maintain. You can see how that's surrender. You just say, well, I'm just going to serve Krishna, whatever. I'm not going to worry about my maintenance or anything. I'm just going to serve Krishna. And you can see how surrendered that is. So Prabhupada showed that in spades. And therefore, wherever he went, people were reminded of Krishna. He was so frustrated in Mishra's ashram because he couldn't preach. He couldn't preach openly, and so he would have his little office there. They put him in a little office in the yoga studio, and so he was able to preach. He had his little class, and then he had 5 or 6 people, and he would just wail away. You can imagine those classes. You hear some of the class. There's some of them recorded from the early 1966, before 26 Second Avenue. They have quite an urgency to them, Prabhupada really. So this is, Prabhupada speaking about himself. This verse is also about him. It's rare to obtain this association. Or please can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world after death. One who receives the favor of the auspicious Lord also receives the favor who accompany the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. So, if you read those early accounts of how the movement spread and how the movement grew, you can see how the devotees were basically fully dependent on Prabhupada. That's why his returning to India and getting ill was such a devastation. They were so, 67. In May, the end of May, he had a stroke. He was in the hospital. He almost died. They thought he almost died. And then he tried to recuperate in America. Couldn't he? And went back to India for some months. And devotees said, no, is he ever going to come back, And you see, there's some pictures I can show you I have of his return to New York. And the devotees just in absolute ecstasy, the tears and the joy of having Prabhupada back, They're like having Krishna back. He was there. If he had not come back, the movement would have dried up. There's no question. 2 little centers. So, Krishna protected him. And the whole idea was, somehow as Prabhupada pleased, because he was giving orders here and there. Everyone knew the basic instructions, but Prabhupada wanted him to go out on Harinam, and he wanted the books to go out. Somehow or other, how can we distribute these books? When the books were first printed, they had the TLC, they had the Krishna book, and they were just piled up in the go-downs of the various temples, a few temples. And what do we do with them? You can go well, the bookstores. That was pretty, minimal. And so, what was his name? I forget the name. The first devotee who distributed that Krishna book at a service station somewhere up in near San Francisco. And somehow, that was going on, and that was so pleasing to Prabhupada, and everyone wanted to do it. That was the whole idea. This was the most pleasing to me, made it very clear. It's also very difficult. The surrender, the purification was going on like anything. So that principle is ongoing. That's why when we sing in the morning, the prayer Prabhupada refers to here, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasada. The same principle is going on. because it's Prabhupada's mood, his methods of preaching, his priorities that he set, is still what sustains this movement. And if we can pick up that basic preaching mood, and we know that he wanted the strictness, there's so many letters. It's good to read the letters. He's encouraging devotees, to come to Mangalarti. What are the basic principles of deity worship? It's also the same principles of the ashram. Cleanliness and punctuality. And when he heard the temples are going on nicely, he became very pleased. He wanted to go there. Go there and spend time, which is a great gift and a boon, just as these Kumaras are going, So the same principle is universal, is that if we can please the spiritual master because of the instructions that he's giving are coming straight from the Shastra and the previous acharyas, so they're all pleased, and so is Krishna. And you can feel that. You feel confident in your devotional life, you're making progress, you're overcoming obstacles, which are all internal. And that basic principle of spiritual life is there. Now you can see the negative, how this works also. When you get a powerful person, say in the political sphere, who's very influential, he's organized, then he takes over. That people who want power and the people who want to be in positions, they all have to please him, And even if he's an out and out demon, this is why Krishna comes, because the demons become very powerful. We had Kamsa, we had Jarasan. In modern days, we have others who are demonic, get influence, and they embody the 16th chapter. I was just thinking, you probably heard me quote this verse before. At the end of the chapter, there's 4 verses. They're really important. It's a whole little lesson there. So he's describing what happens to the real demons. He's cast down, lower and lower. Perpetually they can't see me. So they attain hellish life, But what is the gates to those hells? And remember, there's 3 of them. Lust. Kama is always first. You think Kama, Krodha, Lobha. Greed. Lust, anger, and greed. Now just think of our glorious, beloved leader today in this United States. Personification of those 3. It's almost a cartoon, isn't it? And so, but he's dragging the whole country down. People are in great anxiety because he gathers people around him are of the same quality, low lives, and probably rascals, and so that's having a tremendous weight on it. The country. There's so many innocent people who try to lead a decent life. They don't know anything. They're eating meat and everything, but they imagine that they're trying to, lead a life. They can go to church sometimes, like that. And so this is just horrific. But it's a perfect example of this principle. When someone who's very powerful and influential does something, he has a ripple effect all over that particular area, whatever it is, because those people also affect others. If you want to make it in this, country or this company, whatever it is, this gang, then you have to please the leader, and then he has his henchmen around who have pleased him, and so they're authorities, and that's how society goes to hell. So the only way to cure it, Krishna comes as the supreme leader, and if people are not ready to serve him, please him, and those close to him, then they're either annihilated or reformed. That's what he says. Paratanaya vinashaya dushkritam, totally destroy this dushkrita. So that's how bad it can get. And in the Kali Yuga that we live in, it's practically like that, you can see. But here the countervailing force, the Hare Krishna movement. And the purity of it and the power of it is all dependent on us, this generation. You guys. I'm going off to Valhalla, hopefully, somewhere. Anyway. That's the spiritual world. And, where is it? Is it Islam? Islam. Yeah. Hopefully. I'll maybe have to come back. If you see some guy walk through the door, after I'm gone, because you guys will probably be in your 60s by the time I get old enough. And he's chanting some jazzy slokas, that's me. But he's just to emphasize the principle here is universal. It's universal throughout spiritual circles, but it also works in society as a whole. There's somebody who's most influential, has most charisma, is the richest, the most powerful, and that person sets the mood for everything else, for that particular area that he or she has influence in. That's actually how it works. And so when you have people who don't know anything about bhakti, they're not regulated, then you have havoc in society. You have a bunch of demons who have their little spheres of influence, and some of them have big spheres of influence, and ruining the earth, the environment. Talk about adi-bhautic miseries. Adi-bhautic, those are the ones caused by other living beings, mostly human beings. And so when I went to LA first in '75, air pollution was really a lot worse than it is today. It was before the catalytic converters and all of these things, And you just take it for granted. That's the way it is. You're gonna get, you get this little cough all the time and whatever, just sometimes you had to stay inside, rarely, but sometimes. So what is that caused by? All the pollution and the things that are going on. Other people. They've got this little sign here, because I did my little circumambulation. The door was locked, next door. The gate was locked, and I saw the guy. I didn't want to join me as I went on my longer route. And you go by, and there's some drainage, although it's not adequate. When it really pours and rains, how the streets fill up and everything. So that's not supposed to happen. But they do have some sewers, But there's little signs there. You ever see fish? Be careful what you pour in there, because downstream it goes into the ocean, and the fish are going to, be conscious, your activities. So that's a little attempt to raise people up from just the who cares mode, right? But that's a nature of this capitalist society, which is built on consumption. 70% or more of the economy is people buying things. If they don't want to buy things, new things, then the whole thing gradually, or quickly collapses. So you have to keep buying, and that means discarding the old things, So that's all of that trash and all that garbage. We know about the plastic in the oceans, much of it dissolves. Fish eat it, they get sick, and the whole thing. That's because of they're not chanting Hare Krishna. This is a revolutionary movement, because it undercuts the whole basis of material life, which is controlling and owning and exploiting and trying to enjoy the material energy. Bhoktaram yagyasapasam sarvaloka mahesharam. Here's how one can attain real peace. Not by working and investing and making millions or even $1 billion and becoming... That's just a lot of anxiety. Just look at their faces. Does George Soros and all these rich guys, do they really look happy? No. Find a nice, bhakta who's chanting Hare Krishna. But it's not just that they're condemning themselves, all around them, because they have a tremendous influence. They're waste products. The whole mood is contagious of somehow just consuming and enjoying that way. So we have an antidote to that. That we say, no, you have a reservoir of pleasure in your heart, and you can contact it. Remember that little pamphlet? I think we're still printing him up. Right? Krishna is a reservoir of pleasure. If you can contact him through service and chanting, you can contact that, you tap into that reservoir of pleasure we have in our hearts. And then all of this consumerism becomes ridiculous. Who cares? So many styles, the fashion industry, what a perversion, So much of that is such a source of tremendous pollution. You realize that? Here we are sitting at our little dhotis and kurtas, Same ones I had for a couple of years. When they finally wear out, okay, can you get me another dhoti, Prabhu? When you go to Loy Bazaar. We're not polluting the atmosphere, And at the same time, we're wearing clothes that don't increase our, sense of preening and trying to attract the opposite sex. Preening, like the peacock actually preens, dancing, with the feathers, trying to attract the opposite sex. That's what it all is. Who needs it? Who cares? Chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's a tremendously seditious movement we're in, revolutionary. Tat Bhagavasargo Janatago Viplavo. I explained this word. Viplavo literally means capsizing the boat. That's what viplavo is. Revolutionary. Those words which are meant to bring about a revolution in society. Why is it the words? Because everything begins with the consciousness, and the consciousness can be changed by the right words spoken by the right person. That was why Prabhupada was so eager to have those books distributed. The words are there. They're like time bombs. They can sit on a shelf for who knows how long. Someone pick them up and their life has changed. So that it's a fight for the mind, the consciousness of the people. That's where the real war goes on. And the propagandists, they're so skilled at lying and making it sound like the truth, but they're not as skilled as Maya Devi. They're all victims of Maya. Maya Devi, her whole thing is tricking you, is presenting the phantasmagoria of material enjoyment and material control. But that's a lie. The enjoyment is a lie, and your control is a lie. And they all realize it when they're lying down in a hospital bed and they can't even control their bowels. These big industrialists, controllers, politicians, killers, murderers, whatever they end up. Material energy always wins. So our battle internally is not to fall victim to Maya's wiles anymore, and that comes from constantly remembering Krishna. Then she withdraws. She's a servant of Krishna, and the very materials that she supplies to bewilder you become paraphernalia for serving Krishna. That's the essence of real vairagya. Vairagya, it's an important distinction between vairagya and tyaga. Anyone can tell me the difference? You know that, Balaram. Jamal. Vairagya. Yeah. Literally given up. Krishna talks about the tyag in the 18th chapter, the perfection of tyag. But really, tyag is important, no meat eating, no sex, that's tyag, give it up completely. But more important and more central to our philosophy and practice is vairagya. So there's these verses by Rupa Goswami. What is real vairagya and what is pulgu vairagya? Pulgu literally means weak. It may appear to be someone be detached, but with a little stimulation they're attached. You see what I mean? It means it's still in the heart. So anasaktasya vishayan yatarham apayunjata nirbandha krishna sambandha yuktam vairagyam uchate. This is in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anasaktasya means without attachment. That's the key. Vishayan, for the objects of the senses. And yatarham, as appropriate, engaging them in the service of Krishna. I mean, we do that all the time. Money is the big thing, Money is an object of attachment in and of itself. That's the source of greed. With money you can buy things for enjoyment. But money itself, because money is the source of that and it's a source of power, it itself becomes an object of attachment, And that's why you get people building up these obscene fortunes of, $100 billion. I mean, that's obscene. Someone is holding that and controlling that on what basis? Whatever, madness. That's Krishna's money, and it's a big thief. These people are big thieves. So, anasakta sivishyan yataham upayunjate nirbandha. Therefore, you're not bound up by your attachment to the vishayas, to the objects of the senses. Krishna sambandha, you become bound up to Krishna in attachment. You see the value. That's real yukta vairagya in yoga, bhakti yoga. On the other hand, this is the impersonalists. They seem to be detached too. They also have the orange and everything. Prapanchikadaya buddhya harisambandhi vastunahak mumukshubi parityago vairagyam pagukachite. So this is prapanchikadaya means seeing as material. Buddhya, having the conception that everything is material, including harisambandha vastunak, those things that are related to Hari. like His holy name, the form, the prasadam, everything we're doing. They see us all as bewildered, that we're entangled in Maya. This is called Mayavad, philosophy. So, seeing everything as illusory, including those things related to. So, Harisambandhi mumukshubi parityago. Mumukshubi means strongly desiring liberation. That's their goal, not bhakti. Parityago, so they give everything up. Tyaga, even things related to Vishnu, But this is vairagyam palgu katyate. This is known as weak vairagya. And what's the Prabhupada gives in one lecture, he talks about the Palgu River. Palgu River, like many rivers, I guess in India, during the dry season, they get, they lose water. And this particular one dries up entirely. It's just a riverbed, But if you push your hand down in that sand in the middle of the riverbed, you'll feel the moisture. You see what I'm saying? In other words, the water's still there, but you can't see it. So similarly, Prabhupada said, you push the hand, you perceive into the heart of these Polgo Vairagis, and you see the desires are still there. And then with the proper stimulation, there's famous Salbari Muni in the middle of the Yamuna, meditating underwater for 1,000 years. He sees a fish copulating. Oh, that's it. I've been thinking about that for 1,000 years, and get to come out and get married. Whereas Haridas Thakur, the prostitute comes in the middle of the night and does her thing. And he says, Hare Krishna, let me just finish my rounds, okay? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. He's not attracted at all. Young man. That's the difference. That's the strength. That strong, true vairagya is an invaluable treasure of the Vaishnavas, and it only comes from becoming attracted to Krishna, from using those very things that can attract you in the service of Krishna. Just think of the prasadam. All of those wonderful dishes. They can also be cooked in a restaurant somewhere. But because they're cooked for Krishna, with the consciousness and all the consciousness of which something is prepared goes into the food. The Buddhists know that. And it becomes an act of loving exchange with Krishna. So you certainly become detached from all the abominable food you used to eat, but at the same time you're becoming attached to Krishna. So that's we learned all that from Prabhupada. By the contact of that particular Brahmin Vaishnav, Srila Prabhupada, he was able to, he received the favor because we were able to, do what he wanted. And the principle still works to this day. Krishna will be pleased if we do those things which we know will please our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and the whole parampara. And it's not very clear, those things that we should do. Then we'll feel peaceful and happy in Krishna consciousness and confident of making advancement. Okay, any questions, comments? It is a little early. Oh, we have Balaram.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could comment a little bit more, explain this idea of capsizing the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a word in plava is a boat, and viplava means turning the boat over. So every society, is kind of like a boat in that you have a leader and you have you're plying along in time, in nature, and there's all these things that have to go on in order to keep everything going nicely, So what's the engine of a materialistic society? Is the material desires that people have to have. I mean, that's just a principle of capitalism. If it doesn't grow, it dies. And so it's based on keeping, greed is good, that principle, in the material greed, because without enough, people, if people are just satisfied living a simple life, then what's going to happen to all of these, extraordinary businesses that they have, built up, which is based on people consuming. Just like this iPhone, the phone business. I mean, I have a simple little phone. It costs $100, an Android phone. It does basically everything I need. Why do you need a phone that costs $1,000? And then renew that, and then there's another phone that comes out. I have to have the latest phone. They line up, All of that is madness. So What does Krishna consciousness do? It undercuts that whole thing. I mean, how many phones have you bought in the last 5 years? Not so many. 1, 2. The point is that we're out of that game. How can we live? How can we be satisfied with our simple little phones or no phones? You know? In other words, we're out of it, man. You know, I mean, if that's why we don't have 100 people here. You know, because people know, these guys are, you know, I don't want to be like that. I got to go enjoy. So the principle of giving people a means to tap into a higher source of pleasure is completely revolutionary in a whole materialistic society. What to speak of in modern day? You see that? That's really the essential point. Socialism. You know, none of these other isms are going to help. They may be in a slightly different mode. Okay, at least we should care about people. You know, like, okay, we'll have a medical system like they have in the Netherlands or in England, you know, or, if you're poor, you don't commit suicide because, you have to go to the hospital, you're going to get financially ruined, your kids have nothing to wear. You know, that's America. It's barbarism. It looks like civilization, but it's barbaric. $750 billion a year on the military. It's a used scam. You know, $1,000 toilet seats and everything. It's a total ripoff. And all on the basis of fear. Right? It's the Defense Department, you know. So what does Krishna consciousness bring? Fearlessness. That's one of the benefits, right? So, okay, we need to have a defense, you know, we have the Kshatriyas, but what's really necessary? So it's revolutionary because of the ideas, because of the knowledge, because of the method that makes people more satisfied and happy with simple things. So in that way, it's meant to bring about a revolution in a misdirected civilization, for sure. But it all starts here. It starts in our own consciousness and our ability to experience and to plant the seed of faith in others. You know, and oftentimes it comes in the form of books. That's why it's so important. But you know, it's an ongoing revolution, and that revolution, you know, it also needs to take place in our own hearts. So, but it is revolutionary for sure. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll end with a little poem. Or we could do the Shikshastika. Should I just do the Shikshastika? This is a matter of principle. All right. So we'll do the first verse together in Sanskrit, and then the rest of it just in English. Cheto darpanam harjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam shreyak kaidava chandrikabatadanam vidyavadhu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam padipadam purnamita swadhanam sarvatmasnapadam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the chanting of Shri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge which will take us to life's goal, the chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant Shri Krishna's holy names and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. Krishna, Govinda, and Keshava too, those names have no end, and in each of them you have invested your potencies, leaving none out. Whenever we want, we can chant them without the slightest restriction of time or of place. O Lord, who can fathom your infinite grace? Yet I am so wretched, devoid of all shame, that I haven't developed a taste for your name. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant His name incessantly until the final hour. Time out. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace, consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. Tears streaming from my eyes, my voice choked with bliss, the hair upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns? Every moment drags on like 1,000,000 years or more. From the rain clouds of my eyes the tears in torrents pour. This whole creation's nothing but a vast and joyless void. O Govinda, by your absence I am being destroyed. Let Madhava embrace this maid who's fallen at his feet. Or let him trample me, O my most ardent hopes defeat, by never giving me a chance to see him anywhere, just shattering my heart and plunging me into despair. You see, he is a reckless libertine and not a saint. You see, he is a restless libertine and not a saint, so let him act in any way he likes without restraint. Yet though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me countless woe, though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me endless woe, Krishna is the only Lord my heart shall ever know. These 8 essential verses Lord Chaitanya wrote to teach the practice and the goal of chanting Krishna's holy name. Day by day, whoever sings this hymn will surely reach a little closer to perfection. Spotless Krishna praying. Gaur Premanand.